Welcome to another episode of today's Conversations on Leadership, powered by Life University. I'm Dr. Gilles LaMarche, and I'm so happy today to have with us our athletic director at Life University, Miss Jayme Pendergast. Jayme, welcome. Thanks for joining us on today's Conversations on Leadership.
Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. So let's get right into this. As the athletic director, obviously, with many sports teams, you have a lot of coaches that report to you. You have hundreds of students that are involved in your athletic programs at Life University. What are some of the most important decisions that you make as a leader, probably every day or every hour of every day, maybe even?
Yeah, we're fortunate and blessed to be thriving in the numbers category. We have, I think, 16 head coaches and 23 teams, over 600 student athletes. And so really, the biggest leadership decision that I make are hiring decisions. Who are the people that we bring on board to represent our vision and values and goals, and who do we put in front of our student athletes? We're here to, serve our students, and you could be the best leader with the best systems and the best strategy in place, but if you don't have the people to execute it, or the people that are aligned to go out and make things happen, those strategies and systems are no good. And so I've learned, over the years that, Life University, which is a special place, and our athletic department, which is a special, niche, it takes, a certain type of individual that thrives. And so when we onboard people for our open positions, I use a team of people, and we make good decisions based on what we know works here.
So what are some of the values that you look for in your coaching staff?
So when we talk about department wide, so our valued behaviors are constant growth, grit, respect, and integrity. And we have a culture deck that kind of explains them in more detail. I think some of those words are kind of broad, but we narrow them down from a definition standpoint of, what does integrity mean for us? What does constant growth mean for us? And, we revisit that quite often. And, I tend to, add them to emails if, a particular email is pertinent to a certain valued behavior. And so those are the value behaviors that we embrace and we really feel like has driven our success. I tell people all the time, we didn't just become successful because we fell into, our rep center facility, right? We were successful prior to, and we were fortunate enough to get that. And so, I'm a big believer in, if you don't know why you're successful, like, how are you going to sustain it? And so it's really putting our thumb on those specific behaviors. If you talk about coaches specifically, everybody in the athletic department is incredibly valuable to what we do in our student athlete success, but coaches are the engines that make things happen. And so, three things that I really look for in a head coach are they have to be a good CEO, especially at a small college. They're doing it all. Like, they cannot hide behind anybody because their support staff is sometimes zero. They have to be great recruiters. Any successful program, their lifeline is recruiting, and they have to be aligned with our vision. Life University is different than a lot of other institutions. That's what makes us successful, is because we can differentiate ourselves, but you have to be aligned with who we are and how we want to do things, or you're just not going to be successful here. So those three particular areas are important for head coaches, but we do have bigger departmental values that we talk about often, and that's what we look for when we make hires.
So why don't you brag a little bit? I see a few trophies behind you.
Yeah.
As athletic director, you've been athletic director, what now? 3, 4, 5 years?
I think I'm going on year 7 now.
You're 7 already. Okay.
And it flies, because I often man, has it been that long?
And you've been extremely successful. So why don't you brag a little bit about some of the successes maybe that you've had in the last 12 to 24 months?
Yeah. And I, always appreciate the opportunity to brag. Being in athletics, we always look forward. So bragging is sometimes hard, but we keep trophies around to remind us of our growth. But yeah, just, last year alone, it's been our best year. Life University has a pretty storied history in athletics, but what we are most proud of is our what we think is a very complete athletic department. We strive for success in all of our sports. We're not just about one sport. We want all of our student athletes to experience championships. So this past year, we ended up 7th in the NACDA Directors Cup, which is a nationally branded system of evaluating athletic department success across all of their sports. And so for us to get 7th is just outrageous. And it's just a true testament to the people and the student athletes that we have. We had 14 individual national champions between our track programs, our wrestling programs. It's individual national champions. To have 14 is just unprecedented. And we had 4 team championships. We had men's outdoor track who repeated as national champs. We had our men's and women's sevens rugby program earned their respective national championships. That was the first year we brought home both the sevens championship and both men's in our club rugby program, who are annual champions, but we can't forget to celebrate it. And, I think we had like 53 All-Americans, and we had 100 and some academic all conference, and we hit a department goal of a 3.1 GPA, which is incredible for our student athletes. And it really is a testament to, I think, those values that, I talked about, is we have hardworking people that embrace those and are aligned, and so we can keep it going.
Because I know you make it a priority that they are student athletes. They're student first, athlete second, and they have to perform academically if they want to participate on the team. And I think that doesn't happen at every single school. So that's something really, really special. And you've put together, including a tutoring program for students that need it to raise the GPAs, but the coaches are on board, and the coaches understand the importance of the student athlete experience being both an academic experience, and because at some point they're going to get a degree and they're going to want a career. Mm-hmm. So they don't put that aside and replace it all with just sports. And the fact that you've achieved that much success on the field or on the courts or on the track, and you've had that level of academic success with the students, is absolutely phenomenal. So congratulations, obviously, to you and your team. I know I've told you that before, because that really sort of touches my heart pretty deeply, that you have that level of commitment to all of their experiences.
Yeah. And I think it's thank you for that, because it's often a piece that's kind of overlooked, but it's probably the piece we work on the most. But we're really privileged to that, we can use sport as a vehicle for a lot of young men and women to get college education. And so I like to say our student athletes, just like us, they don't walk in perfect. A lot of first generation students, might not have went to college if it wouldn't have been for their sport. And so we understand, just like they might walk onto the track or the court or the field or the mat, they walk into Life University at a certain spot academically. And our goal is to grow them and mature them academically, just like we do in their sport. And as you mentioned, we have a lot of coaches and admin staff that are just bought into that growth across the board and not just in their sport.
And for me, it's such a touching thing. So I think back to when you took the AD position. I don't know what the numbers were, but you probably had a couple hundred student athletes. Now, as you mentioned a while ago, you have in excess of 600 student athletes currently. So as an organization grows, there is that tendency for, I guess, what we refer to as the institution to maybe lose its inspiration. Thinking back to the Athletic Hall of Fame banquet that you hosted just a few short months ago, and seeing the level of inspiration in that room with the student athletes, I'm really curious for you to share with the audience, what have you done to actually keep that fire of inspiration burning so brightly, literally appearing to be in everyone's heart, soul, and mind, and in their eyes? They're inspired student athletes, and you have inspired coaches. So what have you done to make sure that inspiration doesn't get dampened as you grow, and you've grown so well in such a short period of time?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. It comes back to, if you study, team culture, team performance, high performing cultures have a lot of trust, psychological safety, and empowerment. And so, I think it starts from, as we've mentioned several times, hiring the right people, right? Is like, I have to hire people that are hungry to go to work every day, and they work hard, and at the end of the day, they lay down and they're fulfilled by their hard work. And I think having those people is the most important part, right? Because you can feel if there's apathy, like our student athletes would be able to feel that. And so that's a big piece of it. But, my leadership philosophy has really been built on, I read a book that was called No Rules Rules. It's about the Netflix culture. And my leadership philosophy is exceptional judgment equals minimal controls, which means people in our department know what our vision is, they know what our values are, and they have these bumpers. But I empower them to do whatever they can to put their thumbprint on their program, their department, their job responsibilities, to make decisions, to empower them to put their personality in things inside those bumpers, because it's that autonomy and empowerment and ownership that is pretty proven to drive performance. People want to do meaningful work. And so the way to give meaning to work is to let people have some autonomy and control. And it's worked really well. And if you hire the right people, it works really well. And I think that seeps into our student athletes. And I think, putting the right people, putting a great coach in front of student athletes that like shows up every day ready to go, despite the long, evening they might have had before, it makes student athletes want to show up. And when you have success, that helps too. I really like to celebrate success, but we also own our failures. And I think, I hope at least even owning failures gives energy as well, because you own a failure, you move on, and it keeps the energy going. It doesn't stop momentum. And those are all part of our value system that I talked about earlier.
So when you talked about mission, core values, you talked about vision, as it relates to the athletic department at Life University, which you spearhead, what's the most important to the athletic department? Mission, core values, vision? How do you differentiate that?
I think it's tough, especially as I went through the process of developing the vision and the value behaviors. I think it's really tough to separate them because they're so ingrained in each other. So our vision is to be a leading institution in performance and meaningful student athlete experience. But I don't think we get there without those value behaviors that I talked about. So, I don't think I could say one or the other is more important, but I really do believe in this, leadership philosophy of the exceptional judgment equals minimal controls, because I really do see and feel that power of, again, you could have a great system, and you could have great P&P, and you can have great strategy, but like, if your staff, if your most important people aren't showing up empowered and feeling like they're doing meaningful work, I'm not sure it's going to go very far. So I really credit like a lot of the success to hiring really, really good people and giving them that freedom that's aligned. Again, it's all aligned with the vision and the value behaviors. But I really think people operating in that system is why we've gone so fast and have been successful in that.
Yeah, I love the statement you say, the vision and values, the behavior around vision and values, because I've not heard anybody actually utilize that sentence that way. And when you brand it that way, knowing that that's who you are, because I've watched you and gotten to know you over the years, that that's how you live your life, and you live your life from the space of doing work that matters with people I care about, and you inspire that in other people and do it so well. So number one, thank you. Congratulations, because you really are an exceptional leader, because you lead from your heart, but also using your brilliance to actually work with people to make the magic happen, I guess we say, knowing that none of it is magical. It all takes time, energy, and effort. This question for us today would be maybe around encouraging creative thinking, because you said a while ago, you hire them based on understanding mission, vision, values, but then you allow them to put their own spin on it. You allow them to do things like that. How do you encourage that level of creative thinking among your coaches and your staff, and probably among the students who then bring great ideas back to the group?
Yeah. And again, I think it comes back to that, philosophy of, and the values, right, of, constant growth, which is we should always be, a value is constant growth, which means inherently, like, we should always be looking for something new. But grit is also a value behavior. And one of our definitions under that is like you can't be afraid to fail. And if we do, we'll learn from it. And, now again, there's bumpers, right? There's failures. You talk about some risk type things that, like, that's not the type of failure I'm talking about, but I think it's leading with that mindset. So, let's talk about like some admin staff, like, our sports information directors who do a lot of creative work on social media, right? If, they have an idea, it's empowering them of like, yeah, go for it. Like, and if the engagement's high and it works well and it goes over well, like, let's keep doing it. If it falls on its face, like, let's not worry about it. Think about game operations. I mean, we host like probably 100 home events over the course of a year, which is just outrageous. And I have 2 people essentially that like kind of run that, but they might have some ideas about some game operations and some engagement. And sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And I know coaches, they're creative in different things that they try with their programs. And sometimes they're a hit and sometimes they're a miss. And so it's encouraging them inside these bumpers, right? As long as we're acting inside these value behaviors, just try things and come tell me how it goes. Because I actually like hearing about the failures just as much as the successes, because then if another coach comes in with an idea, I'm like, oh, like, try Omi. He tried that before, or, go talk to Ashley. She tried that before. And encouraging people to talk about what works and what doesn't work. Different camps, like different community engagement type activities, different types of fundraisers, like some have fallen flat on their face and some have been really successful. And so I do really credit the creativity back to that freedom and psychological safety of like being able to try things and fail within reason and talking about it rather than being afraid of it.
So it was interesting what I heard you say, because you have an individual team, for example, so let's say you have men's wrestling. So you've got whatever the head coach and whoever's involved there. But even though there are individual teams, you have not really allowed them to create silos because you encourage cross-team conversation to continue to grow the entire program.
Oh yeah, we do case studies and staff meetings. I have yet to have, this is what's great. When I do case studies and staff meetings, they're usually like learning from mistakes, right? I have yet to have an individual who was a prime contributor to the mistake. I don't know if that's the best way of saying it though. Turn down the opportunity for the bigger group to learn from it. They'll be like, yep, I'll talk about it. Like you can share that. I'm happy to talk through it. And that's like a culture that I hope, I think that's the culture that will sustain us, is being able like, gosh, like I tried this and I had the best intentions, but messed up, but like, here it is. And maybe other people can learn from it. And hey, can I take this to a staff meeting and can we talk about it? I've yet to have somebody be like, no, that's embarrassing. I don't want to share that.
That because that's the culture that you've built. You've built the culture that there is safety in conversation, whether the outcome was great outcome or whether the outcome did not reach the goals that they had set. And by creating that level of safety, leaders get people who thrive in that environment. And so what a beautiful testament to true leadership and what you have brought to the athletic department at Life University. So thank you for joining me today. Any closing comments for our listeners today?
No, I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate your partnership and leadership on campus too, because it takes way more than just the athletic department to make athletics run. So we could not do this without tremendous support from the university.
Well, thanks you for joining us. I know that everybody listening in is going to get a lot of value from sharing the insights that you shared. So once again, congratulations on your success continued great success as you lead an amazing team at Life University.
Thank you. I appreciate it.